So it's. I'm surprised. Nope. I guess when Jim doesn't show up, nobody else comes either. So.
Well, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Now, did you guys set up a GitHub account?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So we got Wi-Fi here, right?
Yeah. So that's pretty much what this one is going to be about. We're going to we're going to take the local repository that we made a couple weeks ago and transfer it to online.
What's the key?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very, very secure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're good.
All right. And we have the GitHub account, which is good. So you're going to want to get on the GitHub, and you're going to want to log into your account. You remember, you know, the 4 basic things that we did last time?
The init does like an installer setup,
Right.
For the folder,
And status just gives you an overview of status of that repository. Add will let you add the files. It will commit those added files to the repository.
Okay.
So basically when we try to do this and add it to an online, we're going to have 2, it's going to be 1 repository, but we're going to have a local copy of it and we're going to have an online copy of it.
Okay. Accept it at both locations at the same time?
No.
Okay.
Only if, well, we'll get to it.
Okay.
There's going to be 2 new commands that we're really going to learn, and it's going to be push and pull.
Okay.
I'm probably just going to try to, I'm just trying to select down here. So, yeah, you're brand new. So you're going to be a little different than what I said in this. You're going to click on start a project. I think it's just going to be easier if I slide down here and do it. So at this point, we're kind of at step 2. Here. And for our purposes, we call this test or demo or whatever, because we're not going to save it forever. It's just so we can play with it. You've got the option of adding the description if you want. You don't have to. It's totally optional. Had this been a real repository, you would have been told what to do.
Yeah, right.
GitHub doesn't let us for free have private repositories. So if you wanted to keep your project secret or just for you, you'd have to pay for it. Otherwise, your projects are going to be open to the public. Anybody can find them.
Okay.
So at this point, you're going to click create repository. And you may notice there's some familiar stuff going on here.
What happened?
I don't know what happened.
People are scared about the presentation.
I guess.
Maybe
I don't know.
they're scared about.
They're scared. They're scared of me.
I was learning a little bit about it, but I don't like how everything is hiding. You know, you only have your actual files, and everything else is managed by Git.
Right.
He knows. He sees every file like a chain of characters, and he knows what go out, what go in, and he write down all the how you say
All the commits.
all the commits,
all the changes.
and this is, but everything is high for you.
Yeah.
But I like the editor. I was practicing with the editor to put pictures and drawings. I will, when I can show my projects in Hi-Ho, I will go in.
You're not convinced about Git yet. I get it.
No, strictly, I know that is the right way.
Right.
No, but it's a way of change.
Yeah.
You have a lot of stuff in your mind, and
You've
always.
got to make that change in your mind that
Yeah.
this is what I need to do.
So are you concerned that it might not bring back the changes? Or
Well,
what is it?
actually, every project, each project is a folder on my computer, and I have a backup in Google Drive and in Dropbox. Everything is backup everywhere, okay? And I have a folder. Inside the folder, there are the software files, the files, actually. There's a folder with documents. Inside the docs, there are drawings, and everything is going there, you know. And have another folder in history. When I had several versions of my stuff, I put them in history and continue changing the number of the file, changing the number. But it's how I work for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything is there.
So now it's
Everything
taking
is
care of
there.
that for you.
I can find everything.
Yeah.
I never lost anything because I have a backup in physical drives. I made backup of Google Drive and Dropbox.
He's come up with his own
I
revisions.
have backups of everything. I have my system complex, but I am accustomed to, you know, change everything. I am thinking on GitHub, like GitHub, that's a means for publishing my code, you know. But I need to add the drawings, the information.
Well, here, time I'll show you. There's a couple of things that we weren't going to get into really. There that is on GitHub. There's GitHub.io, which lets you document and do all kinds of other stuff. I mean, this is just the basic stuff, you know. This is just the.
I'm learning. I really so YouTube videos. I subscribe in the GitHub, but I work in a lot of stuff now.
Yeah, I know. You just got to change. You got to change it in your mind that.
But I know that is the right way. It's the right way to work. Absolutely. Maybe if you want to work with teams of people, if we want to work together in a project, one will be in charge of different parts. Will be great. But looks how people looks. It's scary. For me, it's scary because it's like, hey, change your way of work and thinking.
Well, I was saying earlier too. He does some coding, scripting language, and once you commit it, you can make another branch, which hopefully we're going to do today. Now you have a good working master copy.
No, I
and then you have a branch that you can just work on.
I can work on my way. Maybe I will be doing a lot of branches, you know?
Yeah. That's how,
Instead of committing, I will be branching. That's the way I was working.
but that's,
I can do that also, but
that's sort of how I work. I'll make a change and then I'll make a branch and then I'll,
maybe after a while, say, okay, let's put all together again
Yeah.
and clean.
so,
And
so
make
once
a
you,
new master
yes,
commit.
yes, once you get some working branches and they're actually working, you can merge all those branches back.
But when you merge, you need to decide maybe conflicts, right?
Yes,
What you change.
which
You
conflict
change
gets
in
resolved.
one branch, you change a procedure that calls an array, for example.
Yep.
And another one, you destroy the array, I use another one, and it becomes a conflict. What you want to do, you need to decide.
And Git will actually show you where all the conflicts are.
Okay.
But we haven't quite even got.
I am understanding.
Yeah.
More and more, okay?
Yeah, I know, it's hard, it was hard for me, and I didn't have any kind of revision system. And it was still hard for me to wrap my head around using this, but once I actually started using it, I went, oh my God, how good is this? I can actually go back and.
And I work with drawings.
Yeah.
Everything are images in my mind. Right? I go to a project folder and search for .jpg,
JPEG, yeah.
and all the images appear. I order them by name or by date, and I can check in my history mind, you know, oh, this is the project about this. Go there and open this file, and it's not a lot of names, it's images about the project.
Yeah, well, okay, now you're on something a little different.
My system is working, but it's a lot of complexes. It's not to reproduce as a standard way of doing things.
Right. So, okay.
But I want to use GitHub. I want to use. I will follow your.
Okay. There's not many of us today. So. No, you're all right.
Was working in the garden.
So he's brand new on GitHub, like I would imagine you would be. There was a new block that said, what did it say? How did it say it? Start a new project or something like that.
Yeah, start a project.
So he clicked on start a project and it brought him up to
We had to enter
a page like this,
a name and a comment.
which he typed in his repository name here. And his repository name is test, T-E-S-T. See it there on the end of the, okay. So you can see that these first commands right here are very similar to what we did when we
Working
set
a
up.
Windows machine, right?
He's
Okay, you see that directories as a window directory, right?
Yeah.
I understood why people use the text command console, because everything is text, everything is related with code. Yeah, but I was imagining that there is a Git for code and images. You see an image and see how the image changes in time. There is a new element or
pretty much anything you can save to your computer, you can use Git for.
It treats it as a file, not as a.
It's a file also.
Right, right. It treats it as a file.
But the images has binary
Right.
binary info and Git use characters.
It's true, but the way it backs it up, when it comes back, it'll be exactly the way it was. So
Maybe represent each binary file will text files or
it does some funky, really fast compression.
Yeah.
It makes it makes it interesting. But I can show you. When I commit repositories myself, I usually have a bunch of pictures and stuff because I want to at least document how I've got something hooked up right then or something like that. So I can do pictures. GitHub itself is limited to, I think it's 100 meg file. So your file size is the limiting factor, not really what kind of file it is.
Yeah.
So if it's a
But
picture,
I think that Git also solves the problem of memory build up. You know, but now memory is cheap, and you can go anywhere in sizes of files.
right. Well,
but actually, the way of working with this is you can have different computers, your desktop, your laptop. You open your Git in your machine. You pull your project where you were working,
and it's exactly the same.
And then you push again what you did, right?
And then if I go home and I pull it back on my home computer,
and you continue
it's exactly the same from where I left off. So we haven't quite got there yet, but that's where we're heading. We're heading there.
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
No, you're all right. You can see that where it says create a new repository or push an existing repository. So basically, Git tells you what to do. And you'll notice that the first 3 commands for creating a new repository, we've already done. That's why if we just need to push an existing repository, those are your commands. Git, remote, add, origin, and that string which equates to the online repository. The .git would be an online repository. So if you wanted to do that.
So what am I doing? Right here?
Oh, that's mail.
Nah.
Right next to it.
Oh,
Too late.
I see it all. I see everything. It's Windows. You clicked on it too fast. It's Windows.
Yeah, just, put love program.
No.
Yeah. No.
Oh, all right. I'll let you do it.
There it goes.
Excellent.
All right. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to type in that line exactly the way it is. That whole line.
You can also copy it.
You probably could copy and paste it if it would be easier for you.
Yeah.
That's why.
Close. You're close.
You just type in G.
Just type in the G.
And then bring it up.
What size is this screen?
I don't know.
Is it raining?
And then,
Huh?
no. It's just
No, what's
brush off.
Boy, it got the G anyhow.
Nothing.
Interesting. Oh, you erased it from the back side.
There's actually more just.
Oh, you can't.
At home.
No, still haven't got rid of the first G.
Now,
Now, enter.
oh no, you're not in a Git.
Oh.
Duh, it's Windows.
So you gotta be in the Git repository.
You gotta get in the
I got you.
repository.
Sorry about that, that's my fault.
Call from Joni Williams.
Hi, Joni. Hi, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back after
or
7?
sensor inside disappear? I was checking it with a magnet.
Oh, they are?
Oh, I didn't know that.
What's
I
wrong?
didn't know it had.
And I will also include the function.
All
Whole
right.
read. Whole read.
Bye.
I didn't know that.
May produce another. But I use a strong man.
Yeah.
But with the soap or the not point you see in the plotter of we know that the signal going.
You realize how.
I don't know what to do with it, but it's
But
decided.
but that's,
Like a temperature sensor, right? Or it's a whole,
Taking your grandfather.
the whole thing. Yeah.
Cellulitis.
It's got, a bunch of touch sensor pins on it too.
I tried yesterday also.
It's just an impressive,
Yeah, everything is
impressive,
done, everything is there.
for $7-8, it's like a really,
I just bought last night,
well,
the Lolling 32,
uh-huh,
light or
yeah.
with the new chip. It's now $4.60, free shipping. The board full.
How did you know documents get stuff?
Just where I put it last time.
Get stuff.
Okay.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we were creating our repositories.
So it'd be whatever you made it to be.
Yeah.
So now the next command will be the push command. And the first time you issue this command, you have to tell it that you want to push from the origin, which is the local repository, to the master repository, which would be on GitHub. And actually, those two names could be anything you want, but it's standard to be origin and master. The master repository would be your first repository online.
Yeah.
It would be the one that you would want to clone or make branches off of, because supposedly the master branch is the one that's always working.
Now, is that something you have to configure in here first before you run it, or automatically assumes that's your master?
The very first time that you run the push command,
Uh-huh.
that's basically what you're doing, is configuring it. The origin will be the local.
Okay.
The its source destination is basically what it is. So the origin is
So by running
the source.
this,
Do what?
by running this, it automatically assumes that there's a local, it's going to be the origin.
Right.
And the online is going to be the master.
Right, and those are really just names, or the master are equal.
Okay.
At least at this particular point, they're equal.
But if you wanted, you could rename it local and online or something like that.
You could, but that really wouldn't be a standard. There's kind of some standard conventions that everybody sort of uses. You could call it something else.
But it would just be unconventional.
You'd just be different.
Okay. Well, I am sometimes.
You'd just be different. And you might confuse some people who were going to look at your code or something. If I think it's raining.
That really sounds like.
Sounds like it, yeah.
It's sunny.
Well, then somebody's walking around on the road really, really fast.
You see the sun in the
I
post?
see it. I see it.
But you're right, that doesn't sound like an air conditioner.
That doesn't sound like an air conditioner. So you're going to want to type git push -u origin.
This line.
Yeah. And just be normal for now.
Now you are in GitHub.
Yes. We're going to push.
With the browser working out.
Right. We're going to push.
But this is in your machine, this window.
Right. Remember a couple weeks ago, we created a
Yeah, a
file.
file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're going to, basically it's going to clone our local repository online. So now we're going to have a copy of it online.
I saw which editor you use. I saw something like you have your file open in the editor, and you go to your command line, the branch or where you're working, and automatically the file updates.
That was, that text editor was just the,
Sublime or something like that.
yeah, it's just,
You change GitHub changed the file actually with the name where you are working, and instantaneously you see the content of the new file that GitHub has with this name.
yeah, we'll be able to do that. So if you hit enter, now it's going to ask you for your username and password again, or it should ask you for your username and password. And depending upon how you've actually password defined, you may have to answer this question 15 minutes from now. Again, if we make a whole bunch of commits, the security, some of the security is set to ask again after a certain period of time.
It's like a reminder of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, let's see, an error occurred. So did you not get your username and password correct? Maybe? Try it again. It's asking for your username.
Here?
Yeah.
Well, now there's a username, it said username or email. Does that make a difference? I used the email.
I use my email address all the time, but kind of depends on how you got this set up. There it is. I don't know why it was different, but you see here it says total 6, deltas, reuse 0, blah, blah, blah. Basically, nothing's really changed. We've just created a new branch on GitHub called master. And if we come back over here to the GitHub page, and we actually refresh the page, you should see there it is. That is whatever you did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, okay.
Now, if you see where it says latest commits, there's one branch and 2 commits. If you click on the 2 commits,
You see the other people GitHub, sometimes you see the same file many times
Yeah.
with all the commits and the comments. This is supposed to be hidden, or
like I said, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. This is,
to use it.
yeah, and I've done it myself, accidentally recommitted something that I shouldn't have committed, and then it showed up like 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
So it's easy enough to do, let's just say. There you see your 2 commits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember 3rd and 4th. I think we're on the 4th commit. So click on the 3rd commit and see if it changed. Click on.
We had some trouble with the commits.
Yeah, I remember
we're
that.
having problems.
Yeah, click on that, and it should show you what's actually changed. So, yep. So that shows you what's actually different. If you go back a screen, I'm trying very hard not to do this myself. If you click on 3, if you click on that, That should actually, I don't know, it says the same thing. Will actually let you bring that as the working file. Don't see it. Don't see the button.
That browse file.
Don't see the button. Let's go back to just click on code again.
Oh,
Yeah, click on that. Let's see if it didn't change it. I know there's a way to actually change it, and it was simple. It was simpler than doing it from the command line. But now I don't remember how I did it. Memory's the first thing to go, isn't it? What?
I forget.
Memory. Click on your two commits again. Let's see if we can. Oh, maybe it's that. Maybe it's the thing that actually. I can't. Oh, click on that. There we go. Did that do it? See, it says here on the third. Now, GitHub doesn't, because of the way line feeds and carriage returns work in Windows and Linux, it's different. That's why it doesn't look like it's changed, but it has.
Yeah.
So it's the two arrow, the greater than less than sign that will change the commit, so you can get back to them. And because of the way CRs and line feeds work in Windows and Linux, it's not showing. It doesn't look like it's changed, but it has.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question for something like an image, like a JPEG.
Yeah.
Does that still show that here, or does that kind of just empty?
Okay.
It's not text.
So this file that we created a couple weeks ago is called a markdownlet, and it's similar to a markup file, only the syntax is supposed to be simpler. To make a image show up in it, you need to format it so that you tell it where the image is actually located, and then yes, it will show you the image.
Okay.
GitHub doesn't have a space for images, right? You put the link to the image in your Google Drive or in your space in internet, right? In the text,
Right.
only appear the link to go for the image.
Only unless you tell it to show the link, it will only show the picture. It won't show the link.
Call from Douglas Gear.
Choose show the link or show the picture.
Right.
I'm in a meeting. Can I call you
user
later?
need to push the link and see the picture. But the format
Okay.
will be
Bye.
only text.
Right.
Text.
Right. Yeah. So, I'm trying to think. Let's look here.
So an editor for that.
I'm going to steal this computer for a second. Let's go. Oh, I can't spell. He doesn't know who that is because I can't spell. I can't even spell my own.
On the page.
Yeah, don't you love that?
Yeah.
If we look at a couple of my repositories here, the Wi-Fi display badge, you can see I've added a folder here for pictures. And these pictures will actually show up. eventually.
The first time I tried to use GitHub was in September. I made an account.
But that's what I was gonna ask on this question. He's talking about a link to a picture.
Yes.
So where is the picture?
It need to be in a server somewhere.
Well,
Why,
it's actually, in this case, it's actually on GitHub. The picture is,
You have a limited space to do that, right?
yes.
You will fill up quickly.
I could fill it up. The limit is on the file size, not how many files.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know.
if it's a 100 meg file, it's not going to work.
Probably the best way for me will be to have all my images in Dropbox or
Right.
Google Drive
Aren't there
And-
like
and-
sites
and
you
put
can
the
post
links in.
images and then, like,
in a shared folder or something.
GitHub actually is pretty good. Images are generally pretty small. I mean, they're not going to be 100 megs.
No, I need to put
Um,
videos, you
let's
can
see.
put also links to YouTube or.
That you need to put links to YouTube or something like that for your videos, because videos are too large.
But you can see the video inside GitHub.
Yeah.
In a window.
And
right?
you could
can go to YouTube.
do that. See, I didn't
I need to use those.
set it up to display any of the pictures here. I was trying to find one where I actually did that. But you can see there's links that just automatically get created if you stick an HTTP or an HTTPS
Something like that.
in there. It'll automatically create some links for you.
I found an editor for this.
Yeah.
His name is Paper.
Yeah.
Paper.
Dropbox paper.
Dropbox Paper. And,
Yep.
and you, it's very.
It works
easy
really
to
well.
use
Yep.
everything.
And
I will go in this way.
so I didn't embed anything, but I could have embedded the video. I just chose not to. It's just a link that opens up.
Better.
Yeah. So I think that's what you're asking. I could have just as easily embedded all those pictures so you can see those pictures here. But that's basically the README file is displayed. See right here, it says README.
Mhm.
That's what
that's what this is.
that's what all that is, and that's what we played around with last week, was the README file. So that's what this is. You're just displaying your README file.
Mhm.
And it defaults to the README file. The README file gives you information. In theory, it gives you information about what this repository is all about. Our test repository is obviously not.
I can put there all my information.
So that's how to create a thing. Create a thing. Let's see if we. Oh, we're good. So we pushed a brand new repository, well, a local repository up to GitHub. So that was basically what we needed to do there. And now we need to clone a repository.
What is the object of GitHub? They have ads or something, or who pay for that?
Oh,
They have ads or,
Yeah.
or
they have, you can pay for GitHub but They have-
the business is to engage you to use it professionally.
yeah, they have corporate sponsors,
Okay, I understand.
corporate sponsors,
Yeah.
people who want to spend a lot of money.
Yeah. But if we want to work together in a project to buy the permit to do that.
Actually,
Unless if we use the same login and. but
No.
It's not.
no, that would do.
Yeah.
Now, we don't need to pay for it.
How you do that? To
They
exchange.
draw you in and then they add add extra benefits, then you got to pay more money for that.
You can use the work of other one, and how you bring back your work to his page. You need to send him,
Right.
Hey, I have a new branch, use it.
Right.
And you can
So
copy.
we'll just keep it simple since we're already here. This one's pretty big. Let's find a smaller project.
Yeah, but you need to,
Let's
you need to look for the work of the other people and put again in your branch.
right.
You need to be
Well, okay. So
synchronized.
this is my test page that I set up when I was trying to write this documentation. Let's say we want you to mine stuff.
You
Okay.
can make a branch in your.
Well, what he's going to do, it's a little bit beyond what we did here. You're actually going to fork it.
Okay.
So you're going to come up and you're going to click on fork.
Fork is create a full copy of this.
A full copy of my repository in his account.
But use that or he does it.
He does it.
He does it.
He does it.
He
So now if we go back over here to his account, which is Terry Beard,
Mhm.
and we click on that,
Go
We're
to
going-
your GitHub and make a branch.
well, we're going to see test, which is his original project, and then we're going to see test one because it needs a unique name. But you see here it says forked from KD8BXB, which is me.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have a working copy of this forked branch. And we go here. I'm going to go back one directory because I think I screwed this up. I'm going to make a new directory of git test.
I can fork your work in my space.
Yep.
Work on it, and I send you a message. Hey, I have something new, and you fork mine in yours again.
Watch what happens. We're going to actually clone this working directory into his local
Okay.
machine,
Mhm.
and we're going to type in git clone. It'll take it a couple seconds, and now if we type directory, we'll see that a new directory called test1 shows up. We cd into test1. We type directory, and we'll see a README file. And now I'm lost because it's Windows.
Yeah.
Trying to get back on directory.
No, I'm trying to do, I don't know what I'm trying to do. I need, I made a new directory here called git test.
Okay.
And if we edit this file, guess it's not going to let me just open it. Notepad or whatever.
And this folder is actually in Windows. You can see in
Right.
Explorer,
Right, exactly.
but the file itself is managed by Git.
Right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add, Terry was here. And then we're going to save that. Maybe, come on.
I hate that thing. I have to use the mouse.
Yeah, I'm starting to see, I'm starting to see that. Now, we just saved a new file, so if we type git status, we've modified the thing, so we were going to go ahead
You
and,
say, or your commit is different, right?
it's different, yes.
Is that why it's in red?
That's why it's in red.
And you can be working all day in a file, and when you commit, it's because you reach a level of work that you want to pack and to save as
Right. That doesn't make sense.
what you say,
Of course it does.
you want to flag it like a done stage or something like that of the coding.
So now, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna push those changes that he just made them, not me, him.
Yeah.
We're gonna push those changes
When
you
you
may or
push,
may not
you are
do.
committing or not? When you push,
I commit first and then I push.
okay.
So now we go back over here to GitHub, and we're on this new repository, and we're going to refresh the page, and it should say Terry was here. Now,
Yeah,
this is
but that's in mine, not yours.
correct. See, if we go back to mine and we look at mine, it's going to still say, it's going to be test. And it's still going to
Is there
say-
a record that someone
Yes.
wrote that for you?
Yes, there is. See, it says one person forked it,
Okay.
and if we,
You can check who? No.
yes, if I click on that, it'll show me who done did what. And here's where it gets really, really interesting though. So for some reason, your version is better than my version. So we want to merge the two versions together. So on the original master version, you come over and you create a new pull request. And if the internet wasn't going slow, we would have already had a pull request.
We look for all the same,
It
the
would-
ported files or the,
is from the base branch, which is master, and we're going to compare it to the new master. And here. Oh, duh. We need to be on his to create a pull request. There's nothing that's changed. So from his, we create a pull request, and we create a new pull request. Type in brief description of what has changed or whatever. We create the pull request and conflicts. The two branches are
just add. some-
right. The two branches are able to merge together with no problem. And we can't comment because we didn't write anything down.
The best way when.
I will actually get an email that says Terry Beard wishes to merge blah, blah, blah. I can come back because I am the master of that particular branch. I can come back and say no or sure.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. I can't just
No,
change yours.
no, but it gives it, without emailing me or anything, I will actually get an email from GitHub that says you've got a new whatever. And if I want to do it, all I have to do is go in there and push do the same thing. It's going to ask me, it's going to show me that there's no conflicts. It's going to ask me to make a comment about why it's a good change or whatever. And then I'm going to be able to commit the change. Once I commit the change, I go back to my local repositories and I do a pull request to pull the changes. And that's what a pull request does. Anything that's changed up in the cloud. In fact, it's a good idea unless you know for a fact that you own that repository. it's yours and there's no changes being made, it's always a good idea if you clone another directory or fork another directory to do a pull request first. That way, if things have changed, you've got the latest change.
The latest one, yeah.
We went
Sure.
we went a little side step there because, you know, cloning a repository is something a little bit different than forking a repository. When you clone a repository, it actually kind of becomes your repository.
Everything.
And you can change anything, but it's harder to merge backwards. So
You need to maintain a lot of stuff.
so
You change the structure or something and it will be a problem.
right. If you think your project, if you want to base your project off of another project, but don't necessarily want to push that change back, cloning is good. But if you think that
Maybe I want to enhance some.
if you want, you're right. If I've got a better way to do this,
Check
or
this, I have a new way of to do this thing,
right,
and you see, and you can merge.
and that would be a fork. A fork would be a good way to do that.
And you work only in a part of the project.
Right. So we didn't do it, and we should have did it, but we should have created a branch off of the when we forked my project. We should have created a branch so that you would have had a copy of the original fork plus the working copy for you.
Oh, okay.
Basically, we kind of screwed that up. We really should never work in the master copy. We should always be working in branches.
Yeah.
I think what I will do is copy the file, give a new name, and save it in my
So
Google Drive.
when we forked it, that was my master,
Yes, that became your master.
and I should make a branch
Right.
to
So
actually do it.
So making a branch is relatively simple. So if we do status, we will see that we are on branch master. See that? So we did a get status. We're on the branch of master. This is test one, which is the one that we forked.
Yeah.
So to make a branch, we do checkout -B new, or whatever. We could call it whatever we want. So we switch to the new branch.
You're in a new directory, right?
It's not a new directory, it's just an entirely new branch. So if we did get branch, now you'd see there's actually two branches. There's master and new.
How you do when you want to see the former file, and the new one? I want to see both to work. GitHub only shows you one.
Yeah, I don't know of how to.
Because I used to work, for example, in Sublime, I have the one file, and
Well, okay.
the new one,
What you could actually
pieces and.
What you could actually do is open up another command line, another terminal, and one of your terminals be on the master branch and one of your terminals being on the working branch. And you only make changes to the one that
You need an editor working in one branch and another editor working.
in the second branch.
But it's very common for me to do that. It's not a lot. Sometimes
I think that's how you would do
usually
it.
I can in Sublime in the editor test I can have 4 or 5 files and I'm working with them, copying and pasting in the Arduino environment functions sometimes, and then create a new. But I need to see all the other files.
That might be a good program for you to write.
Actually,
That might be a good program for you to write. That way you can have it, have it interact with Git and figure out what branches are there, and then you select which ones you want in which window, and have it bring up 2 or 3 windows.
Well, but I need to see how to do that.
I think-
Surely everything will merge, but you need to practice.
Yeah.
To do the same.
I think that's how you do it though, is you'd open up 2 command lines and one of them would be on the master branch and one of them would be on your new working branch or whatever. But basically, at this point, he's on a new branch. So anything he changes, when he goes to push it now, GitHub itself will say, I don't know about this new branch. We've created a new local branch, but GitHub doesn't know about it. Remember the 2 commands that we used, that the one command that said remote add, and the other command was git push origin master.
Yeah.
Origin was the master branch on the local machine. Guess what we have to do now? We have to tell GitHub that there's a new branch. Git push new. We'll push a new branch. So if we git push new, we might need the U, I'm not sure. New.
One new is a command and the other is the name of the file.
One is they're both branch names.
New are branch name, both
Right.
the same.
One's going to be on the local, and one's going to be on.
And you're giving the same
remote.
name to both of them. Okay.
But the look was always first, and remote would have to always second.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Why didn't that work? Oh, because I didn't do it right. That explains. That's the other thing I like about Git. If you don't do it right, or if you don't know what to type,
You can go back.
just type in something and it basically tells you typing. So we're going to set the upstream. The upstream is the online repository. It gives the example of origin and new again, but I believe we're going to be new and new because we're in a different branch.
Yeah.
New still doesn't work, so let's try origin. Let's actually follow its. Oh, look. If you actually follow what it says, it actually looks like it works. Oh, sometimes the computers actually tell you what they want.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't resolve
Because the
the
command line is different in a Linux machine, right?
The command line is
The
slightly
dollar
different.
and the
Yes.
structure of the.
It's slightly different. Git though, the command line for Git and the command line for Linux or Windows the commands are pretty much the same. Looks like we're offline is what it looks like. It looks like why it failed. I don't know why.
You hear use here for a directory for the to see the files use the same command in Windows and in
Oh, for the directory, ls will give me the command. Will give me the directory,
and here in Windows.
Yeah.
There are differences.
there are differences. Okay, so we need to log back in. Like I said, it times out after a while. It's not a big deal, but we're trying to push that new branch.
So if
You
you
just
use Linux to log in?
you use your
But you will use only at the beginning of your session.
not do that.
You should. Dealing with it all the time. maybe work all day in the project. You want to push commit and then push everything.
I think it depends on the project. So I have made some changes to,
You want to be sure to say then before they're not working. Yeah.
I don't always push, because when,
No, but after you did something that works
yes,
and there is a lot of work behind, okay, let me commit and
well,
push.
I always commit. Like if I make some changes, I go back and I'll commit those, I'll make those changes committed. I don't always push until maybe I'm done with the project or done for the day. And what happens is, let's say I make 10 changes. All 10 of those changes, when I finally say push, all 10 of those changes get pushed up to GitHub. So it's an exact copy of what you've got. But I almost always, at least I have started to, if I make even a small change in a program, I will go to that program directory and comment why I made that change and commit it. And if it doesn't work, I can always go back. I've always got the option to go back. But if it does work, and I've got the change saved and I know why I did what I did.
You don't want to lose.
But I don't always push until maybe the end of the day, or maybe even 2 or 3 days later, I might push all the changes to get up at one time. And sometimes the changes can be pretty big and it can take a while to push all those changes. But it's still, in my mind, that's the way to do it. I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way. It's just the way I do it.
Always depend on the amount of work that you are that you can use, right?
Right.
Yes, whatever works best for you.
I remember usually when I lose something and I need to do it again, usually the second time is better. You know,
It's the second time.
I don't miss the lost file, you know, because usually the new one, I think that's better than the one that I lost.
Did you see what happened when we actually finally got it to actually push the new branch? Now you've got 2 branches. Now you've got a master and a new branch. And at this point, they're both identical because we didn't make any changes.
Yeah.
But so online, if I were to go and look at this online, I would see the master branch as being the default branch. But I could also look and say, oh, there's 2 other branches. Let me see what kind of changes he's actually making, or I may or may not want to work in one of the branches that you're working in. I may decide that, oh, you're doing something that's kind of cool. I want to see how that works or whatever. Yeah. But that's the basics of it. I hope it made sense. Those are the basics. So the best thing to do, really seriously, is to leave your test repository going, and you cannot screw it. You cannot screw it up. Well, you could, but
But you're not gonna care.
you're not going to care. It's a test one, and you can play around.
You'll find a way to.
Yeah, you can start merging. You can start making changes and merging changes together and seeing how that part works, because that's a little bit beyond what we're doing now. I on it between 2 different people's repositories.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same thing with your own repository. So we've got the one has master and new branch. You can merge those 2 back together. You can make changes in the new branch and merge them back together. So it works very similar on the local side as it does on the online side. The GitHub makes it a little nicer to see all the changes because they're all right here in the commit file. So we know what kind of changes have been made, which is a whole lot nicer than typing git log and seeing this big long list of huge numbers.
Yeah.
But basically, it's an exact copy of your local repository is now online. And you look so confused.
Well,
I'm definitely gonna
lots
start
to
using
soak up.
Yeah, really the only, that's one reason why I wanted to do this hands-on. The only way to do this and really understand what's going on is to just do it.
Just do it and see what happens.
And
Just start doing something.
and I know,
Small project.
yeah, well, and I know it's pretty stupid to commit a bunch of readmes or whatever, but you're able to see what's going on.
To understand what's going on.
Yeah. And Git is very, very powerful. I mean, this is just a small section of what can actually happen. There's a whole lot more that there's ways to merge between two entirely different repositories that have, nothing in common with each other. There's ways to do that. There's ways to resolve conflicts between branches and stuff like that. All of that is like way advanced, and some of it I admit I don't understand like half of it beyond.
I'm going slow with this, but I'm sure that this is the right way to work.
Yeah, I think it is, and
If you want to make more complex projects, you need to use it.
Yeah.
To manage all the parts.
it compresses the files, and it's doing a really unique compression where you're not using a whole lot of disk space to do it. It somehow or another it's turning them into some sort of a hashing compression kind of thing. I don't understand it. I don't think I will ever understand it. It works.
As everything in a computer, it works.
It works.
You understand it.
But if you're worried about it taking up a lot of disk space, I really haven't noticed a whole lot of. Because the other thing that it does, when you go and commit, it only commits the changes to those files.
And used to be a fraction of file.
Right. So if you've still got a bunch of pictures in that repository, they haven't changed. They're not going to get recommitted. It's just
The size of the branch is only the direction to the main one and the changes. And when you open it mix and present how the file is with the changes.
yeah. And if you go and you look at some of the large projects, you'll see a bunch of, and it'll look like a bunch of squiggles and whatever. But it all makes sense once you start to understand what it's actually trying to tell you. And I think it's great. I like it. We've got the automation technology.
At the end, you went to Ray's place.
Yep.
Uh,
I did.
What are you doing? You are publishing the code and you are making drivers or samples of for the robots.
Last week I made new code for one of the robots that he didn't have code for.
He has a guy drawing the 3D stuff.
He does.
Looks pretty good, the images of the videos with the parts moving around.
It doesn't show the club has its own repository, and now that I know your username, I can add you
Okay.
To that.
I was gonna ask you about that.
to the club's repositories. you should have gotten an invite to the club's repositories a long time ago. And I think it's still valid if you.
Check the password.
But any project that we're doing for the club, you know, I know we really haven't really worked on yet, but it's something that I think eventually we're going to want to do. And that's where the power of GitHub comes in, because he could be working on a section of code, or I could be working on a section of code. You could be working on something. I think that's where the real power comes in, and that is called.
And each time it has more sense with the multitask processors, you know, will be easier also.
Yeah.
Mine will be a task. I will send you with this variables, the info, and you do this, and it will be great.
That's it. That's what I got. I'm going to put all my junk away because it's 10 till.
Well, I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Like I said, I'll start using this for scripting.
I think once you start, you'll go, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. I probably would do the same thing that I recommended for your dad, though. Just make a test one and start playing around.
Yeah. That way if something goes wrong, I'm not
Yeah.
losing data.
That's probably what I would do, but